Right, so we're going to talk about the Villa and United game, because obviously that was the last game we've played. We being United. I'm saying it like I'm part of the squad, which I'm not. I'm just some guy on the internet waffling. So, so we're going to get straight into how the squad lined up and how I personally would have lined it up. So on this part of the screen, this little bit, that's going to be Ten Hag's lineup. And then on this part of the screen, we'll have my lineup. Obviously very, very different approaches. Ten Hag he took a U-turn. He took a completely... a turn no one, I think, could have predicted for a lineup for Ten Hag. Because he's stayed with his one kind of lineup, which has worked. And this lineup also worked. So I'm not going to complain. So we went with a 4-1-4-1. Worked. The players he put in there worked. So, not much you can do. I think his plan was to not go... to kind of have that balance of defensive, but also possible to attack. He had a solid back line, we saw obviously. And then he had Casemiro, who kind of played as like just a roaming midfielder, who also I think did really well. And that kind of just roaming about, doing what was needed for what was happening on in the game. And you have your four, and then Rashford up top. I went with a more... how would it would be a 4-1-2-2-1, or you could put it a 4-1-4-1-4-1, I think. But Ten Hag had kind of like a long line, then you had the one player, or the long line, one player. I try, whereas mine kind of looks like an X almost, and then you're one up top. Now, my thinking was, obviously, Villa have been pretty good this season. They've scored in every game they've played since Emery has joined. Until they played us, which they didn't score in, which we'll get to when I talk about the score prediction and player performances and all that. It was a different approach. Obviously, I have Casemiro as kind of like the pivot of the midfield, and then I have Sabitzer and Bruno as kind of central attacking mids. But my thinking, they'd be more central mids. They'd be more central mid is what I was thinking. And then obviously with the players they are, if we were pushing up forward, you'd have those two push up into more central attacking mid kind of positions. Whereas if we were defending against Villa, they could kind of drop out on each side of Casemiro and make it essentially three kind of central mid, central defensive mid, whatever you want to call it. But that's what my thinking was. Would it have worked? We'll never know. Because that's not what ended up being played in the game. Because I'm not the manager. I thought we'd get a 1-1. I thought we'd draw with Villa, if I'm being completely honest. We didn't. We beat them. So I'm not going to complain. Again, it's not much to complain about in this game. I was actually really happy with it. So we're going to talk about the player performances now. And obviously we're going to have to say, Bruno's goal was pretty good. It was better than the one he missed and fumbled in our last game. So yeah, there's not much you can say about it. It's kind of what you expect from Bruno at this stage. It's a simple tap in, really. So yeah, that's kind of what I think about Bruno's performance. It was good. There's not much to kind of break down. It was good. It wasn't awful. It wasn't great. It was just good for Bruno. I think the players we need to talk about now is our defence, right? As I've said, Villa have scored in every game bar the United game since Emery joined them as the manager, which you have to say, fair play to him. Realistically, he's done a brilliant job since he's gone there. They went from Gerrard and kind of, losing and drawing, I think, is what Gerrard mostly did. I don't know. I don't watch Villa. I'm not a Villa supporter, so I have no real clue what's going on with them half the time. But I do know about the not being able to score a goal. Is that it? No, obviously I knew about them scoring in every game since Emery joined, because it's mad. It's mad that Emery has gotten Villa so far to scoring in the past 20 goals. The past 20 goals. Past 20 games. Past 20 games. Which then turned into 21 when you played United, and they've now scored in 20 games out of the 21 they've played since Emery joined. I want to stop saying since Emery joined, because it would be one of those things that when you hear it or you say it, it just sound or feel weird. It just sound weird. So our defence was solid. I think it's one of the most solid performances we've seen from our defence. But the main man has to be Lindelof. He has done some ridiculous shifts. He's put some amount of shifts in since, not even since Varane and Martinez have been out, since he's played under Ten Hag. Let's be real, he's been solid since Ten Hag has joined. In that game, he was my man of the match. He just was. He's been so solid. And again, I keep saying it, but I really think people need to understand this. He's not an awful defender. He's only awful when he's partnered up with Maguire, because there's that extra load of work for him to do. Whereas if he's partnered with Luke Shaw, who we're going to talk about now, obviously, he's been solid. But anyway, yeah, Luke Shaw has been ridiculous out of place. He's been ridiculous out of his main position is left back. And he's been playing left centre back, obviously, because he's left footed. It makes sense. We don't have many left footed centre backs. Other than, I think Shaw might be the only left footed centre back. I'm not sure. But he's been so good. He's been so good out of place. And, you might have some people that say, left back and left centre back aren't massively different. When it comes to Ten Hag's system, it is. It is extremely different. Because with Ten Hag's system, his fullbacks almost become more midfielders at times. And we've seen it in that game, you had Shaw and Lindelof as well, both of them, they'd lay off a pass and they move up midfield. So it gave another option, so you're not panicking and you're not trying to loaf it up the field. It's another option. If you can't get a through ball up front, just turn him and pass it off to Shaw or Lindelof. But again, as I've said, he's been brilliant out of position. And I think Shaw being there and being so solid has now made Harry Maguire 5th choice centre back. Which fair. Next player I'm going to talk about was Malacia, who again, another solid player, good performance I think. You can really see he's kind of improving more. We've had a couple of bad games from him. And I think you have to allow that. Well, not allow, but you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. It's a new league. It's the league that many consider the best in the world. He's still pretty young, So I think you're obviously going to have some bad games and you're going to have some good games. But, we're going to have to let him get used to it. Let him kind of settle in, get used to the play. And I know people might say, well, he's been here more. He's been here a while. Surely he's used to it by now. Well, no, because he's been more of a rotation player. If he was playing every single week or he's playing a good few games pretty often, I'd go fair. But he's not. He's kind of more a rotation player. So I think we have to give him a bit of time. And you saw that he is improving, as I've said. They're all fair like Bruno. Just a pretty solid game from him. Not amazing, not awful. It's a Dalot performance that you expect. So, I'm not going to spend much time waffling on. We got a Dalot performance, which is a good performance. Obviously, it's not me saying it was bad performance in any way. Again, it was a solid performance. He did his job. He made some good moves into the box to clear a pass or clear shot on goal. So, you know, not complaining. Which I want to quickly mention, because I don't know if I mentioned it before, that clearance from Lindelof off the goal line, holy mother divine, that was ridiculous. Great defending. Well, it wasn't great defending, let's be honest. At that moment in time, it looked like we had a back four of just pure Maguire. Just everyone was all over the place. Everyone was going everywhere in the gaff. But, you know, Lindelof, he cleared it. Again, more proof he is, and he knows what he's doing when it comes to defending. So, we're going to obviously move on to subs, and, you know, the subs that were made. And normally I'll compare subs that were made in the game and what I would have done, the subs I would have made. I think so far they've all been different, or they've been mainly different, or there've been some different. This game, there's none different. I would have done the exact same thing. Now, I did consider possibly bringing on Williams or Wan-Bissaka when Malacia failed, but that was later, and I think that was like near the 90th minute. It was in a late stage of the game, so there was no real point, you know. There really wasn't. So, yeah. For those who didn't get to see the game, Sabitzer came off for Maguire, and then he turned it into a back five, which Maguire played well in, because that's where he kind of thrives, is in a back five. It's why he was so good for Leicester and why he's so good for England at times, because they play a back five. It's just where he works. Eriksen for Fred. Yeah, Eriksen had a pretty dull game, to be honest with you. I think he was just tired. He just seemed lost at times, or at least it looked that way. But I'd say he's just knackered, and maybe he's just not fully back, fit from his injury. That's just what I was thinking. You know, Sancho for Anthony, again, good solid change. Sancho did pretty well in that game as well at times. You know, I think you have to give it, because I know there's some players that not only I kind of take a pop at and complain about, but just Manchester United fans in general. So I think when they put in a shift and they do well, you have to give it to them. Because if you're gonna give out and whinge about them having like shit games, you have to say when they've had a good game, you have to go, yeah, you had a pretty good game. Simple as. And then Rashford for Martial, again, very like the substitution of Eriksen and Sancho. But more so Eriksen, I think Rashford was very quiet in that game. Not saying he was awful, just, you know, you can't expect Rashford to score when he's on the pitch. So as I said, I would have made the exact same subs. So that's been it for this video. You know, pretty good game. I'm really happy with the result. So yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about. But I will see you in the next game, in the next video, which will be on the Brighton and United game. So until then, have a good one, and I'll talk to you then.